welcome to Holistic Happy Hour. Today's topic is moving through depression. And I'm going to share a little bit of my own personal story and why I got into astrology. I've had many different paths I've walked in my life, many different life experiences, and I myself have experienced depression. For me, it's been situational, not necessarily chemical, but one form of it I've experienced is through grief, and another form I've experienced is through postpartum depression. So I've experienced two different types of depression, and as somebody who's been through it, I'll tell you, when you're going through it, you're the last one to know that you're the one who's sort of walking through that underworld until a wake-up call comes. And the wake-up call can come in many different forms. It can be your own self waking up and saying, what's going on here? You know, I need to change something. It could be a loved one intervening, all kinds of different things. It could be this video you're watching right now, which helps you to realize that maybe you're also experiencing some of these same feelings, emotions, symptoms. And, you know, collectively on the planet right now, I can't imagine somebody not feeling down. You know, this is a down and out time. And when I look back to the Great Depression, you know, that wasn't just about economics. That was also about the whole vibration everybody was feeling at that time. And I would say we are going through another Great Depression right now. At least as far as feelings and emotions are concerned. And mental health and mental wellness are very important to address during these times. So astrologically, back to astrologically, why I got into it. Astrologers just sort of appeared in my life, and everything they told me was so accurate and so right on that I sort of became a little obsessed with astrology and wanted to learn it and wanted to figure it out and understand it, because how could they know all these things? And the timing was right on. And so I started really studying my chart, and I realized that we go through cycles. We go through astrological cycles, and there's a beginning and there's an ending. And that's what's wonderful about astrology, is that we can find out when it's going to end, because that's really what we want to know. Because if we think this is forever and we're stuck in this and this is just the way it is and there is no end to it, well, that's going to make us crazy. But if we realize we're just moving through something, you know, and that there is that light at the end of the tunnel, well, that gives us hope. Now, there's many different ways I can see this in someone's birth chart. In my own chart, I could see the life event. Like I said, it was situational for me. It was grief and it was postpartum. And if you look at my chart during those times, you can very clearly see planets interacting in a way which would create that sort of tension for someone to experience in life. Now, when we talk about chemical or genetic depression, you can also see that in a chart. You can see that in someone's natal chart, the energy that they're born with. And so, you know, just acknowledging that and realizing that, hey, this is a part of me, you know, and not denying it or not feeling bad about it or self-conscious about it, or that there's something wrong with us because we have these feelings or are experiencing this. It's so important to just acknowledge it, because that's half the battle. And once we acknowledge it, well, then we can start to work on the symptoms of it. And my favorite thing to do when I'm feeling depressed or down, and honestly, it's not my favorite thing at the time. It takes everything in me to do it, but it's just to go outside and go for a walk. And if I can do that, you know, if I start doing it for 10 minutes a day, and then maybe I can do it a couple times a day and get outside, get in nature, get my body moving, it starts to help. It starts to move the energy. And it's so important right now to move the energy, because it's a very dense, thick energy we're experiencing. This goes back to all those planets in Capricorn that we've been talking about all year, the Pluto, the Saturn, the Jupiter, and now Mars is in Aries, another cardinal sign, and it's activating all that tension with these three planets. And it's going to continue to do this through the end of the year. But here's the light at the end of the tunnel. The light at the end of the tunnel is in December, when Jupiter and Saturn move into Aquarius. That's when things can start to lighten up. That's when things are going to start to change. So hang on until then. And by all means, you know, if you're feeling like you need help, please reach out to a friend. You can reach out to any of the practitioners here. Reach out to someone, because never forget, you are loved. Next up, we have Carrie Berkey.
Hi everyone, Carrie Berkey here. I'm the author of the Free Spirit Guidebook, and I'll admit a lot of the things in here came from times when I was feeling depressed. And the first thing I'd like us to do is we're going to tune into our breath a little bit, just so you can maybe get out of your head for a moment. So I just want you to sit up tall, roll your shoulders a couple times, and we're just going to take deep breaths. So inhale, I want you to feel like your rib cage, possibly your belly, expands with the breath. And exhale, feel the rib cage and belly draw back in. And just keep doing that at your own pace. Usually when you check in with yourself, you're breathing just in your chest, and it's really shallow, and that makes us feel anxious, that makes us feel stressed. So sometimes it feels nice just to get back into your body, back into the breath. And then if you like, you can keep doing that, or you can let your breath just start to relax now. And so I want to say, I have a lot of breathing exercises in my book, and it's not because I find them particularly easy to do. I'm not inclined towards them. It's like Kimberly said, it's like when you're not feeling good, you usually don't want to do anything, but they are the quickest thing that shifts my energy. So just deep breaths is a really good place to start if you're just trying to check in. How am I feeling? And you might still feel different, or you might feel the same after, and no, that's okay. So I just wanted to share a couple tips. And one thing is, if you're watching this, one of them was astrology. So I feel like knowing your chart and then also paying attention to like what is happening like in the planets, it can be like, oh, you mean it's kind of natural for me to be feeling this way right now? I find that like almost magical. It's kind of nice to be like, okay, it's not just me, this is an energy, and it's okay that I'm feeling it. The other thing that is that I said to go with that. I have a long history of trying to be the positive one and happy, fun, we're having a good time. And that when I would feel down, I didn't like it, or I wouldn't acknowledge it. And I beat myself up about it. And it's nice now. I've been like, gosh, I'm just not feeling good. And I'll now tell people in my life, that's just how I'm feeling right now. And I'm going to kind of lean into it a little bit. Because what I've learned too is that when you don't express the feelings you're feeling, you kind of shove them down, and they show up later in other areas and cause problems. And I'd say definitely now, the word I've used to describe myself is untethered. I've been feeling disconnected and just having these feelings like in long extended periods of just kind of feeling blah. I mean, and as a parent, I'm showing up, but also telling everybody I just need some time to maybe just lay around and feel blah and be okay with that. And another thing I say is cheer yourself up if you can a little bit. So I put a flower crown on today. I was like, if there's just something that can kind of make you be like, oh, that's right, that's a fun thing I like that I forgot that I'm going to do. And the next tip I have is self-awareness. So like I said, how it's grown, and how Kimberly mentioned, like maybe you have a natural tendency for that. Maybe if you find out if you need to reach out for a little bit more help, but also know that it's okay if that is your natural tendency, and you can let people know, you can honor yourself, feel your waves, and go with it. And the last thing I thought about was moving through depression is to move your body. Like for me, it's yoga, and it's known for helping you just release stress and tension. So that's a beautiful way to move through depression. And then lastly, I think I said that was last, but it wasn't. I do want to do a breath in here from my book called Releasing Breath. And the affirmation I have, it says, with my breath, I release stress and come home to myself. So anytime you can just get a quick little shift, you do 4 sniffs of an inhale and 1 long exhale. And we're just going to do 4 rounds. So sit up tall. If you want to watch, you can keep your eyes open. Otherwise, you can just keep your eyes closed, and just through your nose, you're going to take 4 quick sniffs and then exhale out of your nose. Let's do it 3 more times. 2 more. Last one. And open your eyes. And hopefully you feel a little bit of a positive shift. And I just want to say that this is a great way to release built up stress. It will help you feel more in control of your emotions. It releases negative energy and it helps you clear your mind. So you are loved. Take care of yourself. Bye. Next up, we have Stacy.
Hey everybody, I'm Stacy from the Weed Shaman Collective, and today we're talking about depression and cannabis, and just know that cannabis can definitely be a plant ally to folks. So let's start with the newbies. It's a great time to check out an edible or a sublingual made from hemp specifically. In the state of California, or actually in the US, hemp has to have less than 0.3% THC, so it's very, very minimal. You will not feel any type of head disorientation whatsoever. But you can also almost create sort of a ritual around it, or you just take it when you take your vitamins, you know, every day. Just, you know, I'm taking some shots for some things right now, and literally while I'm putting them into my body, I'm like thanking them. And it's the same idea, like build a relationship with whatever it is that you're ingesting, like acknowledge to your body that it's coming down the pike and that the intention is to feel less anxiety, to feel a little bit lifted. And to everyone's point previously, it's fantastic. I mean, I know we're all, the people on this call are birds of a feather, and hopefully the people who are watching as well. I definitely dip into astrology as well, because there's so many times when things are happening collectively to a bunch of people instead of just one person, you. And I feel like depression is a lot about that. It's like that inward space of like feeling really sad. And because it's just so one-on-one, I find that when I'm consciously consuming cannabis, not as a newbie, obviously, as somebody who does have some tolerance, I definitely also ingest with that whole idea of show me self-compassion, because a lot of times it's helpful to find what the root of it is. We can all say, okay, COVID's happening right now, and indeed, the political climate, all of those things, and so much more. I'm still doing massage at my spa. We're doing it outdoor, and everyone is coming with a story that just sort of breaks your heart. It's on top of everything else that's happening. Somebody in their family is very sick. Somebody broke a bone and they can't visit them. Like my parents are in an assisted living and I can't. And it just feels so much. And even just on Facebook this week, I think I said, let's not make it harder on ourselves, you guys. Like feel the feelings and let them go, but let that guilty piece of, but somebody else is suffering more, or I should be over this. Reach into the tools that some of these ladies have talked about, and I know Paula will go into at the end here, because we all have some sort of a tool belt. And all you need to do is like take one of those tools. And if a daily, like I want to do one thing a day feels too much, start with one thing a week. And definitely get outside. Have a little puff of something, stand outside, feet on the ground, connect to the planet. We are all connected. That is just how it is. And with that makes us feel empathically. People feel down, but we can also feel great amounts of joy. And we have to remember to connect with that part of ourselves as well, as much as we can. So please just consume consciously. A lot going on here on the planet, a lot going on in the umbrella of your own lives. And just, you know, allow those feelings to come through and then move on, y'all. And up next is Miss Paula.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, everybody. My goodness, so much good wisdom today. And it's funny, I sort of feel like it's appropriate for me to be the last one, because you've all hit on the things that I was going to touch on. But as most of you know, I am the author of Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say, and Grief, When Will This Pain Ever End? And I think that encompasses a lot of what we've been talking about. You know, in my work as a life transition coach, I'm always dealing with people who are dealing with change. I host a radio show and podcast called Change It Up. And change, by its definition, creates loss, because something's got to go for something new to be on board. And loss creates pain. And pain very often leads to depression. Certainly it can lead to other things. It can lead to anger. It can lead to anxiety. But so often we just feel defeated. We just feel like there's no reason to go on. We feel inept. We feel overwhelmed. We feel so many things that really have the impact of being bigger than we are. And so we just kind of collapse and freeze. And remember, that part of your brain called the amygdala is always scanning your environment to see if you're safe. And when it doesn't feel safe, it's either going to take you to fight, flight, or freeze. And freeze, to me, is synonymous with depression. So as everybody has said here, you know, one of the things I tell grieving people all the time, and I really feel that many grieving people are depressed. You know, it's one expression of grief. There are many others, but I tell them all the time, express what you're feeling. You know, we've all talked about that today. Being authentic is critical to healing. If we try to be something other than what we really are, it takes energy to push down what's really going on. And then that energy drains you even more. And as we all know, depression is a lowered state of energy. So we need all the energy we can get our hands on. So be authentic, feel what you're feeling, and express that to a professional, to a friend, to a family member, to somebody, because expressing what we feel helps to move it out. Remember, the word emotion is energy in motion. And if it doesn't move out, it takes up room and we don't have space for new emotions. And after a while, the body and the psyche just go, enough, I'm done. So I loved what everybody has said. Movement is important to keep energy going. Whether it's a small movement, you know, just taking a simple walk, even a short walk. Yoga is beautiful because it also brings in the spirit and the soul. Or if you're somebody who can actually get yourself moving on a bike, walking on the beach, which is a great place to bring in negative ions, anywhere in nature, touching the earth, all the things that the others have talked about. These are all things that are going to help you. And don't forget diet. Feed your body good, nutritious food. Sometimes when we're depressed, we forget to eat it all. Try to make everything that goes into your body nutritious and helpful. And sleep. Sleep, sometimes we fall into too much when we're depressed, but it is important to sleep. We need to process. And of course, we all know acceptance is an important key in life. So part of accepting where you are is doing these things that we've just talked about. And one last tool I'd like to give you in EFT, which most of you know is emotional freedom technique. There is a point that is a great point to tap for overwhelm, hopelessness, despair. These things are usually what's involved when we are depressed. So that's called the gamut spot, and it's right here, like between the valley of the pinky and the ring finger on the top of your hand. And remember, when we're doing EFT, we are focusing on the things that are bothering us. We focus on the negative. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, but again, as I always tell people, it's like highlighting what you want to delete before you hit the delete button when you're working on your computer. If you don't focus on the things that are bothering you, when you tap, which is like hitting that delete button, your consciousness doesn't know what to delete. So go ahead and get in there. Focus on all the things that are making you sad or making you feel overwhelmed or upsetting you while you tap this gamut spot. Now, we all know there are many more points in EFT. We've seen them in other shows with Amanda. There are actually over 14 points. But sometimes when you're depressed, you can't think of anything but one thing to do. And as the other ladies have said too, sometimes just doing one thing each day can make the difference. So find that gamut spot and just tap it while you focus on the things that are bothering you. And when you feel the shift, and you will, because doing this is sending calming signals to the amygdala, telling it that it's okay, that it's safe. When you feel the shift, then go ahead and put your consciousness on what you want to exist, on the things that light you up, that give you joy, that you hope for. All right, so I hope that those tips and all of the wonderful tips given by everybody today will be helpful to you if you're moving through depression. And remember that you can get more information about all of the practitioners on this show by going to holistichappyhour.org. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye-bye.